While Pluto is oftentimes simply known as the planet of death and rebirth, which sparks a bit of fear for many, Pluto on a deeper level represents some of our greatest generational trauma and parental wounds. And so in today's video, I want to cover everything that you need to know about having your Pluto in the sign of Libra and what exactly parental wounds you may have. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Isabelle, your spiritual rebel friend, and today we are talking about what it means to have your Pluto in the sign of Libra, because Pluto moves very slow, and so a lot of my viewers, I've noticed, have their Pluto in the sign of Libra, which really does play a big role in what exactly your unconscious parental wounds are and what unconscious beliefs you may have around a certain zodiac sign that keep you limited in your life from leading the life that you love. So in today's video specifically, I'm going to cover the common misconceptions about Pluto, Pluto explained in depth, the Libra archetype, Pluto in Libra explained, and how to apply this knowledge. So if you're someone who not only likes to take in the information of astrology, but know what to do with it, watch through to the end of this video where I'm going to share some of my top tips for healing your Pluto wounds. And before I dive in, before we get any further, be sure to book a reading in the link in the description below, where in 1 hour we can dive deep into any and everything regarding your astrological birth chart, your Pluto transits, your personality type combination, and so much more. Sky's the limit. Learn more about readings down in the link in the description below. First and foremost, let's talk about the common misconceptions of Pluto and what Pluto is really about. Oftentimes when we are talking about Pluto, two major words I hear come up are death and rebirth, which are 100% accurate to what Pluto is about, but it's not the root theme, or it's not, so to say, the whole story. Oftentimes I have actually had people who come into readings talking about their Pluto and they ask if it means they're going to DIE early or if they're going to experience hardships even in their life. Like, are they bound for a life of failure or sadness because of their certain Pluto placements? And this is not seeing the whole story of why we have Pluto in our chart, because Pluto is not just meant to be this planet of destruction in our life. It represents a deeper story. And so what exactly is the true deep story and root theme of Pluto? Pluto is, yes, the planet of death and rebirth, but it simply put represents the qualities we are collectively transforming. And how we personally transform this depends on where exactly it is in our chart. But Pluto, oftentimes, very much as I've noticed with my clients that I've worked with, represents some of our greatest generational wounds, generational traumas, wounds that were passed down through our ancestors, and parental wounds. Oftentimes I've noticed across the board, 9 times out of 10, that Pluto tells you how you perceived your parents growing up. Your moon sign tells you more about what exactly you perceived your mother to be, and your Saturn more about what your father. But Pluto is how you perceived both your parents together, oftentimes, the parental dynamic that you had. And so whatever sign your Pluto is in tells you what you perceived your parents to be, the wounds you unconsciously carry around your parents, and is one of the points in our chart that can show us our greatest healing journey, qualities that we are here to heal for the sake of transformation. And it may require a death to the old self or a transformation of the old, whether that is unconscious beliefs passed down to you through your family lineage or through beliefs that you instilled in your childhood based off of your experience with parents. So it all depends on the sign exactly that your Pluto is in. So I want to talk a bit about the Libra archetype and then get into what it means to have your Pluto in Libra specifically, as well as dates for when you need to be born to have your Pluto in Libra. The Libra archetype is one that represents our journey towards connection. In the first six signs of the Zodiac, we develop the self. And when we hit Libra, the 7th sign, we start to ask ourselves, okay, how can I see the other? What is this person? I understand me. I've developed me. Now, who are you? Libra represents the archetype of connection and fairness, hence why they are represented by the scales. And so they represent this archetype of balance and seeing the other. The idea that we are not complete in a world by ourselves. We need to have other people and other interactions from a state of balance. Libra as an archetype represents fairness, diplomacy, mediation, and neutrality for the sake of connection. And with that, we experience both some positive traits that the world needs, such as understanding, connection, cooperation, diplomacy, fairness. But in the negative, this oftentimes can present itself for the Libra archetype as the need for approval and seeking validation and forgoing the sense of self for the sake of connection, to the point where maybe we are conflict avoidant or abandoning ourselves. And so these negative aspects really come into play when we're talking about Pluto. So how exactly does this play out, this Libra archetype for Pluto in Libra? If you are someone who has your Pluto in the sign of Libra in your chart, and I will put some dates over the screen for when you needed to be born between like the time slots in order to have your Pluto in Libra, but roughly it's the Gen X generation. We have this collective belief, or I shouldn't say we, I'm not Gen X. The Gen X generation with a Pluto in Libra generally felt like with this placement, you were raised in a household where diplomacy was valued to the point of perfection, meaning that you maybe were raised in a household where your parents modeled that they wanted to be the perfect image of the perfect family, to the point that maybe conflict was swept under the rug and considered that we don't go into that because we want to be the image of a harmonious, balanced, perfect, fair family. And with that as well, it could have been one or more parental figure modeled this behavior of conflict avoidance for the sake of approval. There's many different aspects to a Pluto in Libra. And so one of them is the more so social image side, where one or more parents seem to portray this idea of seeking approval from others, whether that is portrayed or projected onto you by wanting you to be the perfect model child, model citizen, or if they portrayed this themselves through wanting to be the perfect image themselves. They seemed very image conscious and wanting to appear very harmonious as well as luxurious and successful to some degree. The other aspect of a Pluto in Libra is feeling like oftentimes, as I've noticed with my clients, that conflict was not a healthy subject in the household, to the point where any sort of family issues were completely swept under the rug or then exploded. Conflict mediation and cooperation is not necessarily a healthy topic for a Pluto in Libra. And so they feel that now they have a conflicting idea of what it means to cooperate, whether that's being overly passive or overly independent. And this is all based off of their relationship with mediation and cooperation that was modeled in childhood based off of parents and family members. It could have also just simply put been ingrained into you unconsciously, passed down through your ancestors. Also with that as well, there may be a weird conflicting idea for the Pluto in Libra about what it means to be perfect, fit in with society, and be recognized in a public image. It may be hard for these people to feel like they're accepted or feel like they can portray a certain image because they don't want to be like their parents who are so focused on the perfect image. So in one interpretation, these are the people who rebel against having any sort of social image or find themselves very isolated because they don't know how to cultivate connections from a place of understanding with others because their parents were so focused on winning approval. So the relationship with approval is something that is very conflicting for a Pluto in Libra. However, with that, these are qualities you are here to transform. The whole roughly Gen X generation had this weird relationship with conflict to learn how to mediate conflict and come from a place of understanding, returning to the roots of Libra, the archetype, which is all about how can I see the other? For this reason, so while Pluto and Libra may have felt like their parents were so focused, one or more, on seeking the approval of others to the point of forgoing the self and forgoing all conflict, they are now here to understand and see this dynamic that played out for them so that they can transform this to bring more connection and harmony and diplomacy into this world by focusing on their one-on-one interactions. And for some, the one-on-one interactions part plays out in different fields than others. This is not always relationships. This can be business dynamics. This can be family dynamics. It depends on what house your Pluto and Libra is in. But with all that said, How exactly do you work through your Pluto wound? What do you do with this information if it feels that it resonates for you? I want to take the last few minutes of this video to talk about some practical tips for working with your Pluto. Based off of working with all of my clients who have a Pluto in Libra, here's the advice that I have found is the most helpful for them, which is first and foremost, identifying the relationship you had with conflict, approval, and connection in childhood. What of the qualities that I listed about Pluto in Libra resonated for you? Was it your dad who modeled this? Was it your mom? Did you feel like you had to live up to an image? How has that shifted who you are now? And where do you see that this Libra archetype needs to be embraced? Because these are qualities for you to transform. So I would say, in a sense, while Pluto may represent some of our greatest generational wounds, the transformation process can be a very simplistic approach because simply this is the process letting go of the old and bringing in the new. So where do you see that these Libra traits could be valuable in your personal life as well as in our collective? And how can you further implement those? And where is it possible that these Libra Pluto wounds are unconsciously driving your life? For example, I think I've had clients where they say, well, that doesn't really apply to me anymore. Yes, I had parents that are like that. But then maybe in their relationships, they feel like their parents modeled a certain level of cooperation that now limits them from what their expectation of relationships can be. So where does the Pluto wound limit you? Where do these interactions, how did your family model, your parents model certain traits around the Libra archetype, and where does this currently create a foundation for expectations in your own life? I know it's a bit of a complicated question. I know I didn't phrase that the best way, but I think you guys get the point with that. Simply put, healing your Pluto wounds, applying this knowledge, is by observing where these wounds came up, identifying how they still limit you, understanding the house that your Pluto's in can help with that, and proactively implementing the qualities that are positive about this archetype. So let me know in the comments below, Pluto in Libras, did this resonate for you? How are you transforming this wound? Did this resonate? What did I miss? Did your parents seem to model this behavior? Was this a new take on Pluto that you haven't heard before? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more videos breaking down the stars and more. If you have more questions regarding your Pluto and Libra, if you want to heal this wound further, if you want to understand more about how this implements and impacts your chart, then book a reading down in the link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Sincerely hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you want to hear about next on the channel. And thank you again for watching. Once again, my name is Isabelle, and from my heart to yours, namaste.